Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast on the Bet Rivers Network, brought to you by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos Tequila is brought to you by those who drink it. We come to you this morning on the Mike Francesa channel on the Bet Rivers Network on YouTube, as we are a day away from the start of the baseball season. We know it began early uh, in another country, but that was just two games. Baseball is back tomorrow. And the locals will both be in action at 3 and 4 o'clock, respectively. The Yanks at home, the Mets in Houston, and we will get the season underway. And baseball is unlike any other sport. There's nothing. First of all, for most of us, at least of any age, baseball is what you grew up with. It's your first sport. It's your first love. Because it's the sport you learn first. It's the sport you play first. You might have played midget football, but again, baseball was the most intense part of your upbringing, and that is usually the case. That may have changed in recent years as the other sports have become like soccer and basketball have become more prominent. But still, baseball is a very big part of that. And what makes baseball so different is it's like a book that you turn the page every day. It's with you every day. And for a lot of people, it is a constant companion. They wait, and it is a very big part of their day. And when you realize that when they take in or consume the pregame show, the ball game, the postgame show, that's a good 5.5 hours, maybe even on a given day, 6 hours of their day committed to baseball. Add that you could often have a game in the day and a game at night, and you can have wall to wall baseball most days of the week. And it's there for you every day of the week. You can find a game. Rarely, maybe two or three times in the next 180 days, there'll be no games at all, other than the All Star break. Baseball is there, like I said, like a constant companion. And the team that you follow, it's nuanced. You might start fast, you might start slow, you might develop slowly, you might develop quickly, you might collapse, you might get hot late. So there are so many different facets to what is a very, very long season. It comes in the days that are just beginning to warm up. It goes through the days of spring and then the searing heat of summer and then into the chill of fall before we crown a champion. So it is a very, very long campaign. And obviously, in this town, a very, very important one. Baseball does not have the national prominence that the NFL now commands. It does not have the national attention, does not have the national appeal that the NFL now commands. But in the cities that it's still big, the baseball cities, it is very, very important part. It's very much the fabric of that town. Whether you're talking New York, Boston, Chicago, St. Louis, even some of the other towns. But for the most part, a baseball town is a baseball town. And it is very much a regional game. There's no question about it. And there is still very much a small town aspect to the sport that will never change despite where we are in the year 2025. So here we go. A year of optimism, a year of change. One slugger changes uniforms, takes away that dynamic that the Yankees had last year, having Soto and Judge back to back. Now Soto has his own team in Queens that he can display his wares, and Judge is left in the Bronx to see what he can do with what remains. Now, the Yankee spring training and early season has been clearly a tough one. The Yankees just look at their number, which now, and I'll give you the Bet Rivers numbers in a minute, but the Bet Rivers number on the Yankees now sits at a lowly 89.5. This number was 94.5. Then it went to 93.5. Then it went to 91.5. And now it's at 89.5 as the injuries have piled up. The loss of Heel for at least 3 months, the loss of Stanton possibly for the year, the loss of Cole definitely for the year. So it's a very different Yankee team, one that will rely on some newcomers, one that loses the dynamic duo aspect of last year's campaign with Soto and Judge. And it'll be interesting to see how they respond, and interesting to see if the Yankees are willing to add, if they need to stay in the race or to ensure another postseason spot. You would think they would, but there are some people who have their doubts. Let's see. We'll see how it unfolds this year for the Mets. The question again, as it was last year, will be the starting pitching. Everyone underestimated it last year. We'll see if everyone's underestimating it again this year as they try to turn what looks on paper to be a very mediocre starting rotation into something that can produce a championship ball club. They clearly have a lineup that is very, very impressive. Now, as I mentioned to you yesterday, I have I have problems with both lineups. Lineups are overrated, as we know, because once you go and start the game, the lineup is different anyway. But there's a couple of things about the lineup that I just don't agree with. Number one, and this is one I've had for years, I don't believe that it is to the utmost efficiency to bat Soto second. I don't like the idea of batting him second. I still don't like the idea of batting these guys second. I prefer to bat them third. I would bat Lindor, Nimmo, who can be a high on base percentage guy, who's a lefty who can utilize that first base hole when Lindor's on base, who has extra base power and has speed. I prefer him in the 2 hole, and then Soto in the 3, backed up by either a very hot Vientos if he's hot, or Alonso in the number 4 hole in the cleanup spot, based on who's going hot and who's pitching and everything else. But the Mets are going to do it. What has now become kind of convention, which is to bat these guys in the 2 hole. Although, like I said, I don't agree. And I clearly do not agree with the Yankees batting Wells leadoff. I don't know if this is an experiment. I don't know if it's something they're committed to. I mean, first of all, you're dealing with a catcher. You'd like somebody in the top spot who can run better, number one. Number two, your catcher doesn't catch every day. So he's not in the lineup every day. He's in the lineup somewhere between 110 and 120 games a year. So there's a lot of days you're going to have a different leadoff hitter. Anyway, number three, this is a left-handed power hitter who just comes off a 6 home run spring, who is last year was a 320 on base percentage guy. It wasn't like he had a 375 on base percentage guy. The Yankees haven't had a pure leadoff hitter in a very long time. We know that. And they don't have anybody who fills the bill right now in terms of giving you all the elements that you want in a leadoff hitter. I agree there's not one there. But I don't like the idea of Wells there. I really don't. I would there's multiple guys I would put in the leadoff spot rather than him. Multiple guys. And I hope it's a short-term thing. I think he's better suited to being down in like the 6 hole. He looks like he has power. It looks like he's a developing left-handed hitter. He had a great spring. As we said, he hit 6 home runs in about 45 at-bats. I would not bat him leadoff. I know this is going to be historic in that no Yankee catcher has ever batted leadoff. Why? Because it doesn't make a lot of sense batting your catcher leadoff. It really doesn't. Most catchers don't fill the bill as a leadoff hitter. So to me, I don't like it. We'll see how long it goes. It's not something to lose sleep over, but again, I don't like it. I'm not a fan of it. So I would have changes in both lineups in my mind, and we'll see how. The one I know I'm not going to get. I don't believe in the 2-hole for the best hitters. I believe the 3 is more suited, and I prefer to build the lineup that way. But that's just me. And as far as the catcher, I'm not for it in any way. As I said, we would do over unders. I'll do Yankee Met over unders. I'll do the current uh, numbers. I can tell you that I personally had 3 plays that I've made already. I played the Yankees under 94.5. They're now 89.5. Today we'll give you a prediction on based on the current number, which is 89.5. The Mets are 90.5, and in a very tough division because that actually places them in third place in the division behind the Phillies and the Braves with the 90.5. I'll give you the corresponding current numbers on the ones that I have over-unders for. First off, let me give you the totals. Dodgers and Cubs, are already underway, so they don't count. The Dodger number was 104.5. It was 12 higher than anybody else in baseball. The next team is the Braves at 92.5. So they are right now 12 games, and they really are 12 games better than anybody in baseball. At 90.5, and these are the current BetRivers numbers. You can get them on the BetRivers app. Go to BetRivers.com. Go to the BetRivers app. Download it for all your stuff. Now, Braves 104.5. They're already underway, so they're gone. Cubs are gone. Their number was 86.5. All the numbers are a half, so that you're not on the number. Braves 92.5. Mets 90.5. Phillies 90.5. Yankees 89.5. Orioles and Diamondbacks come in at 87.5. There's some breakage on a couple of them. A couple of them that have gotten some plays are a little higher in terms of what the number is. I'll give you an example. The Red Sox are 86.5. They're minus 140 because they've been getting a lot of play. I can give you a couple where you're going to get a plus number with a certain over or under. There are a lot of teams in the 80s. Diamondbacks 87.5 with the Orioles. At 86.5, you have 5 teams at 86.5. The Rangers. DeGrom is in the starting rotation. He's going to pitch Sunday. The Red Sox, the Rangers, the Padres, the Cubs, and the Astros are all 86.5. Mariners are 85.5. Astros, as I said, were 86.5. Brewers and Tigers are 84.5. Royals are 83.5. Guardians are 82.5. At 80.5 are the Reds and the Rays, and the Blue Jays are all 80.5. The Giants are 79.5. The Pirates are 77.5. The Cardinals are 76.5. The A's in their new home are 72.5. The Angels are 72.5. The Nationals are 71.5. And then there are 3 teams in the low 60s or 50s. And it's rare to have a team in the 50s, but you actually have a team in the middle 50s. And you know who it is. The Marlins are 62.5. The Rockies are 61.5. And the White Sox are 54.5. 54 wins. Think about that. 54 wins. Wow. That's a lot of losses. Now, uh, my picks, not counting the Yankees and the Mets. I have the Cincinnati Reds over 79.5. Uh, they have some burgeoning coming of age frontline talent, and I think they have some sneaky talent. But the biggest reason is they have what I deem to be the best manager in baseball back in action in Francona, who has returned to action now, healthier. Uh, Watching his grandkids and playing golf wasn't enough, and he now will manage the Reds this year, and he will make an immediate difference. He does with every club, not just because of strategy and how he handles the bullpen, but also because he gets the team to rally and he gets the team to believe in themselves and also to run through a brick wall for him because they all love him. He is a manager, the rare manager who makes a difference. Surprising one, and I can't remember ever picking them before in my whole life. I'm picking the Giants over 79.5. I have two teams in that division, and I think the Giants will be over. I think they'll have a winning season. I think they're going to have some surprise performances on the young side and on the old side. As Posey takes over now running that franchise. Buster Posey now is in charge of the franchise, and he wants to bring kind of an old school mentality to the franchise. So I think I like his imprint on the team, and I think the Giants are going to have a surprising year. As I told you, I took the Yankees personally. I took the Giants under. I took the Reds under. When I bet the Reds, they were 79.5. When I bet the Giants, they were 79 even. The Yankees, I bet it under 94.5. I also like the Braves over 92.5. And then I have two unders for you. Astros under 86.5. I believe you will see the biggest slippage that you've seen from them as faces change, the core is gone. I think you're going to see a big change in their performance. And I also think San Diego has major problems, not only in the clubhouse, but they have major problems financially. And I think that will impact that team. And I like them as an under, and that is the Padres under 86.5, same as the Astros. So I'm giving you under on 286.5. Astros under 86.5, Padres under 86.5, Braves over 92.5, San Francisco over 79.5, and right now the Reds are over 80.5. I'll save the Yankees and the Mets to the end, as we talk when I talk extensively about them. There are a lot of teams within about 5 games of each other, excluding the Dodgers. There's a first tier where now, with the Yankees coming down, there's about 8 teams in that first tier. Dodgers on their own tier, then about 8 teams, and then about 8 or 9 teams next tier, trying to break through for the playoffs, but also move away from having 82, 83 wins to maybe 88, 89 wins. A lot of people on the Red Sox. A lot of people on the Red Sox. I think the sure bet in the division is the Orioles. Obviously, they have some question marks in the pitching, but who doesn't? They have a terrific lineup, and I think the Orioles will have a good season. I think the Braves will have a bounce back season now that they're much healthier this year. How could they not be healthier? And obviously, the Phillies and the Mets are both threats, along with the Braves in the East. And then you have the two teams that are, Washington's improving, but they're probably still not much above that 70 mark. And then you have the Marlins, who are in the lower 60s. So there's going to be a lot of beating up on the White Sox. There's going to be a lot of beating up on the Rockies, a lot of beating up on the Marlins, that kind of stuff. Teams are going to feast on those teams, and you really have to win your games to keep pace against those teams. There's no question about it. But let's be honest, right now, it is the Dodgers by a country mile and everybody else. That doesn't mean the Dodgers are going to win. In another sport, you would say, wow, they just have a dominant team and that's it. In baseball, it can be tricky. Though, sometimes the best team, we've seen it many times in our history. We have seen the best team get beat in a series. It happens. Hot pitching, make a couple of plays, get a couple of timely hits, and all of a sudden the best team loses. It happens. The 1960 Yankees were vastly superior, and they still lost in 7 games. Crushing losses, tight losses, while they had dominant wins, but they lost 4 out of 7. It happens. We saw the Orioles dynasty of the late 60s lose in 69, win in 70, then lose again in 71 in 7 games to the Pirates. We saw the A's go 3 straight times and only win once. So a lot of times these dominant teams can fall short. So would it be stunning if the Dodgers didn't win a World Series? No. It'd be stunning if they didn't make the playoffs, which I think is virtually impossible. But they clearly could have an issue in the postseason. That wouldn't surprise anybody. They need to get Betts back healthy, and we all pulling for Betts with whatever he's suffering from, which has caused him to lose 22. And if you've seen Betts, you know he doesn't have 22 pounds to lose. He has had a very big problem internally for now going on a month. So hopefully they can figure everything out and get him back on the right track. He's not been feeling well at all, and it's become a bit of an issue. Hopefully he's okay. As far as we'll take the Mets first. The Mets have a belief now under this hierarchy that they will spend clearly, but they will not go and spend a fortune on starting pitching. They would rather develop, they would rather nurture, they would rather change certain talents, like what they're doing with Holmes. Now, I think Holmes is going to do very well. I think he's going to wind up being a very efficient 6-inning starter. A lot of people want to compare him to Seth Lugo. We'll see. But I think he's going to be very good. I never liked him as a closer. I've told you why 1,000 times. I think he will be very, very efficient, especially with their lineup in the starting rotation for 6 innings. He will do very well. And he pitched very well in the spring. Mets obviously will start the year without McNeil, although, obviously Beatty's been hot. And they will start the year without Alvarez. But they have clearly now an extremely dynamic lineup. The top of the lineup is the equal of any in baseball. When you start with Lindor, followed by Soto, followed by Alonso, followed by Vientos, followed by Nimmo, whatever order they put him in. Okay, that is a terrific, terrific lineup. There is no question about it. And Lindor and Soto back to back are, you know, a very imposing. They're a duo that between them could hit 70 home runs and be two superb all around offensive players. We all know that Soto's not a great defensive player. We know he's not. He's not. He's an average ball player defensively. He's not a butcher, but he's average. But offensively, he is the consummate professional. There are no bad years, and there won't be a bad year this year. He will do very, very well. He'll have an OPS somewhere around 1,000. Remember, there's only been one Met who ever had 1,000 for the season. That was Piazza in 2000. Soto could definitely do that. He will take his walks. You know that. He will not ever expand the strike zone. He will not go outside his disciplines at any point, not to drive in a run, not to do anything. He will take his walk and pass it along. You know, some guys want to criticize people for doing that in big spots. It's just the way he's going to do things. He thinks that's the best way for him to be efficient, and so be it. It's worked well for him, and he's gotten a million big hits. And he's just a tremendous, incredibly dependable, incredibly efficient, incredibly consistent offensive player. He does not have bad at bats. There's very few players. You know, Judge is a great player. He has a lot of bad at bats. Soto never has bad at bat. Never. I mean, he's remarkably consistent in that way. And I know there'll be question marks about Vientos, especially if he gets off to a slow start. I think Vientos is real for this reason. In the postseason, where they have scouts and advanced scouts and multiple scouts working on pitching sequences and scouting these guys, looking for any advantage in the postseason. And you have the pitchers who, for the most part, will execute their pitches properly in the postseason. That's why the postseason is the postseason, and they couldn't get him out. I think he is a legitimate power hitter. I saw him in person last year. I was at games where he hit 4 home runs to right field in the games I was at last year. And none of them was a question mark of going out of the ballpark. None of them. He has immense power to all fields. The ball jumps off his bat. And he has a chance to be a very, very big player. And he was last year. The Met line is going to be really good. Their starting rotation, we'll see. We'll see how it unfolds. Are they a good team? Yes. Are they a great team? No. Are they better than the Braves or the Phillies? No. Are they as good? Possibly. They're not far behind. You can throw a net over all three of them. They're all close. Again, you're going to question the starting pitching a little bit. We'll see how it goes. What can they get out of Senga? We'll see. But we learned last year not to doubt their starting pitching because it turned out to be far more efficient than we ever thought it was going to be. And their lineup's going to be really good. We'll see where Beatty takes his opportunity after a very big spring. As for the Yankees, I mean, they're going to miss Soto. There's no question. Judge is going to get walked a lot. Unless Bellinger is just red hot with the bat and is hurting people, Judge is going to get walked a lot. he's going to really, really have to be careful not to chase a lot of pitches and to expand the zone, which he often does. They don't have a leadoff hitter, as they proved by batting the catcher leadoff. They now have left-handed power, which is you're thankful for. We'll see exactly what Dominguez provides, although he is a butcher in the outfield. I know they don't want to relegate a guy at that age to the DH spot, but let's be honest, his career is probably as a DH. And he's a legitimate hitter, a legitimate power hitter, but he is a butcher in the outfield. It'll take a while until he gets to acceptable. You got pros in Bellinger and Goldschmidt. They're pros. There's no question. Chisholm will be fine. He needs to settle down a little bit. Not try to park everything. Let the game come to him a little bit. I think he'll be fine. It's a big year for Volpe. They actually need a right-handed bat, which they'll pick up somebody, but I know they've been trying to. But I like when they need a right-handed bat and not when they need left-handed bats. And for years, they didn't have any left-handed bats, and they had way too many right-handed bats. It's going to be very unusual not to see Torres in the lineup. He's been in the lineup for a very long time. And now he's gone. And while he was much maligned for a lot of things, his awful base running, his lackadaisical style, some of the things he did at the plate, some of the things he did on the base pass, a lot of things he did in the field, he wasn't a bad player. And he had his moments. And he usually was pretty clutch in the postseason. He wasn't a bad player. I think people always expected more because of what happened early, but he wasn't a bad player. Frustrating player, absolutely. Player that had you shaking your head a lot. I mean, just a flat-out goofy base runner. But it's a little different without him there. I think Bellinger will have a good year. We all know he's excited to be there. I think he's got to stay healthy. He has always had a lot of talent. He's always been sitting on a real special run of years. It hasn't happened. I think he's always been capable of that. He could have a very big season. And frankly, they need him to have a very big season because they're going to miss without Stanton there and without Soto there, and now without Stanton there. That's a lot to overcome. And really, if Judge starts hot with the bat, he is going to, I think, get 200 walks. They will start walking him all the time and make somebody else prove they can beat them before they ever allow Judge to beat them. He's going to have to chase pitches, which he will do at times to his detriment. But he is going to get a lot. He always gets a lot of walks. He's going to get a lot of walks now. He's going to have to take that into consideration. And there will be a lot of Judge and Soto. Listen, they are very different players. They are consummate offensive players. Judge is obviously by far the better all-around player. That's not even a debatable issue. But offensively, they are very, very talented players, and it's going to be interesting to watch how they go about their business, even on opening day. It'll start right from day one. I think there'll be. I wouldn't even be surprised if somebody continues to run a box one against the other all the time. How many games played? How many? Here's the numbers, and just runs it every day. I would not be surprised at all if that becomes an issue that everybody in the town knows exactly where it is. They'll know where the home run count is, but they might even go deeper than that and look at all the numbers. I can see that going on here. That's how much there's going to be of that big man, big man, big man, big man deal. But there's nothing wrong with that. Hey, this idea of who owns the town, you know who owns the town? The one who wins. Right now, it would take the Mets years to erode the Yankees' advantages. It will not happen in a season. It will not happen in 2 seasons. Eroding what the Yankees have now is very, very hard. The Mets, I think, will draw very well. I saw already they said that they've sold out all their packages. If that's true, they have to be way ahead of where they were last year, where the attendance was really markedly disappointing until late in the season. This year, you expect it to be at a premium. I think both teams will draw. Well, the Yankees are going to draw really well. You know that. But I think the Mets will draw significantly better this year. Will they draw as much as the Yankees? No. First of all, the Yankees are in a bigger park. Secondly, they will not draw as well as the Yankees. But, it took the Yankees forever to get past the Mets. The Mets outdrew the Yankees forever. And then it changed. Remember, the Yankees didn't draw 4 million people, and now they can't draw 4 million people. They didn't draw 4 million people until A-Rod came to the team. And they've only drawn 4 million people a couple of times in their history. They can't now draw 4 million people because of the size of the ballparks. But the Yankees will outdraw them. But if the Mets close that gap and are in top 5 in attendance this year, Dodgers will be 1, Yankees will probably be 2. If the Mets are in the top 5 or 6 in attendance, that would be a big step up for them, a very big step up. And I would expect that to be the case. With what they're doing with promotion, with what they did with Soto, with what they'll do probably on the field, I would expect very much that to be the case. And if the Yankees ever have a rough year and the Mets are, leading the division in August and September, well, their ballpark will be full every night and the Yankees won't. That's just the way it works. Front run in town, we know that. But why does that surprise people? More so today than ever before with the prices that fans have to pay. The fans go where there's sizzle. They go where the story is, where the sizzle is, where the event is. They're consumers. That's why with the St. John's thing, I thought it was absolutely mindless. Oh, all you fair weather fans. Well, this franchise, which is it's not a college town. They had been down for 20 years. They had a highly limited fan base. They were a moribund program, and they catch fire behind a Hall of Fame coach, and you're going to criticize the fans who showed up? I mean, it's just ridiculous. You think the fans were going to be knocking down Madison Square Garden to go see a St. John's team that was, under 500? I mean, come on. It's not how it works. They are consumers. That's all fans are. They're consumers. And in this town, which has 9 pro teams before you ever get to St. John's, it is an event town. They follow the winner. They follow the big event. They follow the sizzle. That's the bottom line. Only 2 places in this town where you're going to see a big crowd for a bad team. The Giants are one and the Rangers are the other. That's it. And the Giant fans have had their patience tried to the point where that's not even true as much as it used to be. So that gap should be closed, and I know it was something that really bothered the Mets last year, and I think it will be closed dramatically. It sounds like it already has with the advances so far. I'm not sure exactly to the number how many tickets the Mets have sold this year, but I'm sure it's a significant number. I'm sure they already have a lot in the bank. Now, on to their numbers. Um, I think the Yankee number's right on the money now. I wouldn't bet it one way or the other at 89.5. I told you I've already bet it at 94.5 under. Uh, I know I wouldn't touch it at 89.5 either way. I think the number will be right around there. I think the Yankees will be somewhere between probably 88 and 92 games. I think they'll make the playoffs. Even at 88, they'll make the playoffs. Whether they win the division or not, they probably won't win the division at 88. They could, but I don't think they will. As for the Mets, 90.5. I think it's right around the number also. I would go I would go under. I would go under slightly. I mean, I figure an 87, 88 win somewhere around there. I wouldn't make a big play underneath under, but if at 90.5 put a gun to my head with the Phillies and the Braves, I would go under. 88, 87. Still make the playoffs right around there. Figuring it's going to take somewhere right around there to get the playoffs. There's a lot of teams that could cause these numbers, other than the Dodgers number, to be in the low 90s at best. I don't think there's any other team that's going to get 95 wins this year in the majors other than the Dodgers, who are going to get over 100. I don't think anybody else is going to get over 95. I don't see a breakout 95 team. If I was going to pick one that was going to be a breakout 95 team, it would be the Braves. But I think they're the one that has a chance. Their number's 92, and I picked them over, so I could see them getting close. And that's it. I don't think anybody else comes near 100 wins other than the Dodgers. Now to the I remember baseball tomorrow. Let me give you a couple things on that. Number one, tomorrow the weather forecasts. The weather forecast here is it's not great. Thursday, the high will be 50. The low is 32. So if it's sunny and 50, I guess it's okay. It's not great, but you can live with it. It's going to be 60 on Friday. It's going to be 73 on Saturday, it says. And then Sunday's supposed to rain. But, if it's sunny and 50, I guess you can count your blessings. We're still in March, remember. The Yankees, it's Peralta and Rodon at 3 o'clock in the Bronx. And the Mets will start at 4:10 with Holmes against Valdez. So Holmes jumps right in, and as a Met now will open on opening day. Like I said, I expect him to have a good season. I don't think he'll be more than a sixth-inning starter, but what starters are? Basically, they're all sixth-inning starters. Maybe Wheeler's not a sixth-inning starter. There's a couple of guys in the entire majors that are more than sixth-inning starters, but pretty much all starters are 5- and 6-inning starters now. So that's where Holmes will be. I don't think he'll see the seventh inning very often, but he doesn't have to. If he goes into the sixth inning, he's done his job, no question about it. The Yankees left Friday open. The Mets are playing Friday. They're not going to be obviously washed out. We know that in Houston. So they're playing Friday in Houston. The Yankees leave the date open, and then they play Saturday and Sunday in the afternoon. Okay, so there's day games at the stadium Saturday and Sunday. So that's how the baseball will go. Now, the NCAA tournament, I know people are talking about there's no Cinderellas. There's not going to be any more Cinderellas, folks. It's not like you're not going to get one once in a while, but you're not going to get a lot of them because it's the haves and the have-nots now, and the majors don't have the ability to keep quality players when they get them. And I actually wonder how many teams are going to go the route of St. Francis, which just made the NCAA tournament, lost as a 16 seed, but now has dropped to Division III because they know they don't have the resources. Schools ran into Division I to get a piece of the pie. They all jumped into Division I in the last decade to get a piece of the pie. Now you wonder how many teams are going to leave because the biggest thing you hear now is for any school, well, what kind of resource do they have? Who's their general manager? When did you ever hear this stuff before? So a coach is thinking of jumping to a school, and you're hearing now, do they have NIL money? And what's their hierarchy? Who's their general manager? Uh, this is the stuff that now you hear in college. You heard that's the reason why Pitino Jr., why Richard Pitino picked Xavier as his next spot. You know, you've heard rumblings of Willard leaving Maryland, not because he's worried about his own contract, because they gave him a big one. He's unhappy with the resources that have been provided to him on the NIL level. This is pure chaos, folks, right now. Pure chaos. There's no question about it. And it's going to impact these schools dramatically. If you don't have an angel, if you don't have a guy who you can count on to just elevate the number at a whim, St. John's has a guy in Rapoli who is willing to do that, who's able to supplement that NIL package when he needs to, or when Pitino needs him to. That's a huge advantage when you have that. Now, a lot of schools have very successful alums, but whether or not they're going to go in their pocket or not and have any interest in the outcome of the basketball program or the football program remains to be seen. You have a situation where Larry Ellison, who was one of the richest men in the world, and his wife's a Michigan, supporter, and that's why they get a kid and give him a fortune to leave LSU and go to Michigan next year, play quarterback, to the tune of $10 million. That's where we're headed. Like I told you, if Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was coming, or Lou Alcindor at that time was coming out of Power Memorial this year, he would get $25 million to play somewhere next year. $25 million. That's how high I think the bidding would have gone for him, because he would have assured a championship. Now, we have tomorrow the 4 games. BYU, Alabama is going to be, Alabama's a 5.5 point choice. Alabama and BYU are going to go running up and down the court. We know that. They're going to play a high scoring game. They're going to try and play Bama. It is very hard to beat Alabama in the 90s. You have to have Florida type talent if you were going to beat Alabama in the 90s. You have to have top of the SEC type talent to do that. Even BYU, which has ability and underrated ability, I think will fall short if they try to play them in that game in the 95 area. Maryland is a good team. Queen's a heck of an interesting freshman. Doesn't look like a freshman, isn't built like a freshman, and came up with a big basket. Um, Florida's a 6.5 point favorite after they got a big scare from UConn. Played a miserable game. Didn't rebound the way we thought they would rebound. Didn't play defense or force the issue defensively like we thought they would against UConn. And also missed 12 second half foul shots. If it wasn't for Clayton's big shot making, they would have lost. Now they get Maryland. This will be a tough game. Very tough game for 30 minutes. The question is the last 10 minutes because Maryland doesn't have a bench. They cannot withstand foul trouble here. And you would think Florida will up the pace and bang them on the boards to such a point where they'll either wear them out with fouls or just wear them out. I would think Maryland would have a tough time in the last quarter of this game just because they just don't have a bench. Their starting unit can play with Florida. Their backups, they don't have. Arizona's a 9.5 point underdog, and deservedly so, to Duke, which is playing better right now than anybody in the tournament. They've been that impressive so far. Proctor's making everything. Flag is flag. Arizona has talent. They're not beating Duke. And then Arkansas, which we know very well around here, and we now have a healthy respect for now that they have sent St. John's back to the back to the bench and back to the next season and back to reality. They get Texas Tech, which is a good squad. Not been at 100%. Good game. Arkansas is dangerous. Texas Tech is better. Moving to Friday. Michigan State and Ole Miss. Beater's a hell of a coach. Hell of a coach. He's done a heck of a job at Ole Miss. He's done a heck of a job wherever he's been. This will be a tough, physical game played in the high 60s, low 70s tops, maybe in the high 60s. This game probably goes right to the wire. I think Michigan State wins it, but I think it'll be tight. Kentucky and Tennessee is an enormous rivalry. It's the shot making of Kentucky against the defensive prowess of Tennessee. If Tennessee makes shots, they win. If Tennessee doesn't make shots, this comes down to a last shot. Kentucky can play Tennessee straight up. Tennessee knows it. Kentucky knows it. It's going to be a very intense game for them to meet. Obviously, very, very intense game. I think Tennessee comes out on top. Auburn and Michigan. Auburn will win, but I think Michigan takes at a 9.5 point underdog. Will be in the game and will stay in the game with their bigs, with their guards. The one thing they got to guard against is turning the ball over. There are games where Michigan has turned the ball over repeatedly. If they do that, they're going to get blown out. If they take care of the basketball, they will be in the game all the way. Auburn, something is still missing with Auburn. They have not looked like the Auburn of January. Auburn of February was the best team in the country. They have not looked like that for a couple of weeks now. I think this game will be close. And then Purdue and Houston, although the game's in Indianapolis, which is patently unfair to Houston, which is the 1 seed, and Purdue will have an enormous crowd there. I think that Purdue can shoot. They have a wonderful All-America guard. They turn the ball over repeatedly all year, which is falling right into the clutches of Houston. They also are going to get killed on the backboards in this game. I think Houston wins this game going away. I think this will be a double-digit win for Houston. So that's the second game in Indy. And That one will start a little after 10 o'clock on Friday night. Then 4 games on the weekend, 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday, and then you have your Final Four set for San Antonio. I know a lot for the metropolitan area. A lot of the tournament lost its appeal when St. John's went out. It was a bitter pill to swallow. It was the one game they could not lose to, the one opponent they could not lose to. And they lost in terrible fashion with their star player having a nightmare. It just couldn't have been worse. Really, for everything that went so right all year, everything went so wrong in that game. Richmond's foul trouble, Lewis's play, the injuries to Scott, so many things. It happens. Bitter pill. Bitter, bitter pill. If they lost in the regional, you could live with it. It's very hard to live with what happened here. Let me get a couple of emails in just quick. And remind you, for all your wagering needs, just download the Bet Rivers app. They have everything up to the minute, every current thing, all the same game parlays, all.com. All right, here we go. Daniel, after Dable's second year, everyone was adamant that he was not a Ben McAdoo. Do you think we were wrong? Well, he had a really interesting first year, but I have to tell you this. A big part of their first year success was the uncanny blitzing prowess of Wink's defense. They won a couple of games because of their incredibly well conceived and well timed blitzes. It was really amazing how often they bailed them out of situations, helped them make comebacks, impacted late games in that first year. So a lot of it was the partnership between Dable and Martindale, but that fractured to the point where it got nasty in year two. And Dable showed a very different side to himself that he didn't show in year one towards his assistants, having a reputation of not getting along with coaches, all being tough on players, dressing guys down on the sidelines, all this different stuff. So his image has changed as the victories have dissipated. Now you're looking at a guy who's 9-25 the last 2 years. They completely botched the Barkley thing. They look ridiculous on the HBO show. Embarrassed the organization the last 2 years with their level of incompetency in every way. And now their jobs are on the line, and so much so that they feel they have to go out and keep throwing money at journeyman quarterbacks. I don't understand why they signed Winston if they were going to sign Wilson. I really don't. Obviously, they had to stop waiting for Rodgers, and they needed to sign a quarterback. They weren't going to live with DeVito. We know that. Now, I don't know now if they're going to turn around and draft a quarterback or not. I would think they won't draft a quarterback on the first round based on the fact that they signed Winston and signed Rodgers. And signed Wilson. I don't think they are going to. First of all, I think Tennessee's going to take Cam Ward or charge a king's ransom for the number one pick. So that's out. I don't know if they would take Sanders at 3. If he goes at 2, now they have a very, very talented player. They could get a wonderful player at 3, non-quarterback. Then are they going to add a quarterback on the second round? Are they going to trade up and get a quarterback that they like who's still there that they need to take on the bottom of the first round? I don't know. I don't know what their plan is. I don't even know if they have a plan because it sure looks like they didn't have a plan when it came to this. They threw a lot of money at Aaron Rodgers. They were all out to get Aaron Rodgers. They made it very clear to everybody they were all out to get Aaron Rodgers, and they couldn't nail Aaron Rodgers down. So now what they've done is head scratching, and I don't know where it leaves them. I have no faith in their ability, and they know they have to win next year in a tough division against the toughest schedule in the league. And they're not going to win with Jameis Winston, and they're not going to win with Russell Wilson. And they're not going to develop a quarterback next year because he's not going to play. And there's a very good chance they're going to get both fired, and we're going to have a new regime after that anyway. So the Giants are still a complete mess. They've solved nothing. Rod asked, does Patino stay on or leave St. John's? He stays. I don't think Patino will leave St. John's for another job at this juncture. First of all, I don't think most schools would want to pay the freight to hire a 73-year-old coach. So I don't see that happening. I think he stays at St. John's maybe 3 or 4 more years, maybe even 5 years. I don't know how long he's going to coach. If he's healthy and God willing, he maybe coaches 5 more years. I don't know. I think he's going to try to win it every year. I think he's going to go after it heavy next year. I mean, it's clear if they have, you know, the core back who are eligible to come back next year, and they add a couple of premium players, which I know they're trying to do, then they'll be, right back in the middle of things. They clearly need a point guard. They clearly need a shooting. They need a proven, and I'm not talking about Dunlap, who I think will be gone next year. I think he is entering the portal. I'm not talking about someone who can knock down an occasional three. I'm talking about a guy who can just stick it, who you can count on to make 4 or 5 threes. And if he's open, he's making them. That's the kind of guy they need desperately. You cannot play without those guys in the NCAA tournament. It doesn't work. Mike asks, how do you think Manfred is doing as MLB commissioner? Men's amends. Nothing special, nothing bad. Not an easy job, and it's going to get tougher because they're going to have labor unrest very quickly. They have a huge issue between the haves and the have-nots, so big now that it's unbelievable how big it is. It is a huge crisis for Major League Baseball. They have 3 or 4 major issues going into the next round of collective bargaining and negotiations. Very good chance for a job action. Very good chance. Doug, do you think the Mets lineup is dynamic? Even with Soto, Alonso, and Lindor, and hopefully an emerging Vientos, I still feel they are missing a bat. I don't agree. I don't think they're missing any bats. I think that lineup is very, very imposing. When you go 1 through 5 with what they have, and then realize that they have some guys at the bottom of the lineup that can use their bats, including their catcher. I don't agree. I think there's plenty of pop when you go Lindor, Soto, Alonso, Vientos, Nemo. That's a talented group. That's a talented group, and then you add on from there. Throw in McNeil, throw in Alvarez, throw in the rest. That's a very, very talented group. It's an imposing, I think, absolutely imposing lineup. I really do. We'll see you later.